Hello to you all. Today a video about the malady of the century, back pain, and then we will analyze the issues of back pain a little bit through the prism of dry fasting. Before that, the news is that we have done another retreat which took place in Switzerland this year. So next year we are going to put back the same beginner formula. Actually, it is not a beginner formula, it is a classic 10-day formula, but next year we will offer a 5-day course of fasting with 2 days of water-based recovery, making it a 1-week program, allowing people with only 1 week of vacation to come see us. And we realize that people doing 5 days of dry fasting is already significant. You are not forced to reach 5 days. Some stop at 3, which is good. 3 days dry, 3 days water. You have a super effective cure. So we are doing a softer, easier concept with what we know how to do, our expertise, the dietary recovery, the work on the emotions, the specific massages and so on, systems that will stimulate during the dry fast, etc. I will not detail that again, but you know the program a little bit. So that will be next year in Switzerland. It will be the only short cure that we do. There you go. The next cure is Montenegro. It is in 6 weeks. So I remind people who still want to come that it is still possible. We can do a short preparation. You do one last week, eating light, and then you can absolutely switch to dry fasting directly after. We are no longer in concepts where you must do long food preparations or prepare specifically. The idea is to be able to be metabolically flexible and then to be able to switch to fasting when we want. So there is more in the idea of looking at what we eat daily for the year, and then depending on that we can switch to dry fasting. If you are in low carb, in a low carbohydrate diet, and then with a diet that is correct, that is healthy, the switch to dry fasting can be done very quickly in 1 week. There is no problem. There are specific things. I won't detail dry fasting prep. It's in the masterclass and my book. But it is not that complex. After that, it depends on your profile, your terrain, how you function, is there pathologies, medications, etc. Each case is different. Spots remain for Montenegro in 6 weeks, the last retreat of the year. Then we go to Colombia, so for Americans. Those who are on the American continent, there is a cure which is in Colombia, which is starting to fill up. Montenegro is September 20th to 29th. For those who want to come, some only stay a week. We can arrange it. Everything is flexible. People who want to come before to have 2 or 3 days of vacation, or who want to have 2 or 3 days of vacation after to visit Montenegro, everything is possible. It is a super nice country. It is super cool there. The hotel is right on the sea. The setting is optimal for a dry fast. There's a light breeze. We can remineralize by taking baths in exit of dry fast in water, which is 26 to 27 degrees, so it is relatively warm. These are ideal conditions, not too hot, not too cold. Sun the day, it is 25 degrees the day. There is no heat wave at this time. We are really in an idea of being on vacation. There you go. It is the Slavic countries. It is really a place that I appreciate a lot, which is for me the place perhaps the most adapted in our cures. So we will see after next year. We are going to go to Italy in a monastery. It will be very nice too. So there you go. For those who are still interested, there remain a few places. I remind that it is cures that are in French and English. We work with both languages, so we manage with both languages. For those who have already come, it goes very well. There is no problem. Montenegro offers an additional advantage. It is that you have a magician who comes with us. He is called Peter. It is an osteopath, kinesiologist, professor of massage, who is a top expert. So it is currently in Montenegro. It is the person the most experienced in the mechanical cares who realigns the organs. He really has a practice from Eastern countries. He is really up to date on all osteo-articular disorders. There you go. We are going to talk today about a subject that is really crucial. There are thousands of people who suffer from back pains. It is chronic, whether it be lumbago, sciatica, herniated discs, lumbar pains, cervical pains, muscular pains. I have people who arrive at the cabinet. I read that there is a person who really had big difficulties to walk, strong muscular pains. We started a program 4 months ago on this person. There is already about 30% improvement in 4 months. She did fasts. It is short, 24 hours, and she did 3 days once. The results are extraordinary. Conventional medicine offers no answers. They don't even understand her condition. After the following phase, in a case like that, it would be to pass on a supervised dry fast longer to have really the therapeutic result. Today, regarding all pathologies like muscle stiffness, fibromyalgia, osteoarthritis, herniated discs, and lumbago, etc. Everything mentioned, back pain, aches, etc., fasting is the #1 therapy. I would say it is more effective than going to osteopathy sessions or doing percutaneous hydrotomy, which I respect, which is very good. For herniated discs, there are results. It is indisputable. It is great. Personally, I dislike needles. They hurt. You come out and you really have to have your skin butchered a bit. It is not super pleasant. And then the result is not immediate. With fasting, you have a real advantage, which is that your result is immediate. You finish your cure. Throughout the days that you are fasting, you feel improvements regarding pain, inflammation, stiffness, and muscle problems. The effect is instantaneous upon finishing. You have flexibility. Afterward, you feel much better. Everything works better. The pain you have goes away. It is quite interesting. So these pains, people have had them for months, years with no solution. They get injections, they take painkillers, anti-inflammatories, and then who is going to tell them about fasting? Nobody. It is 0.001% of the population who has this knowledge. And well, there are 2,000 subscribers, but these videos are seen by 400 or 500 people. I do not know. So fasting currently for back pain and pain therapies, it should be placed at #1. And you save a lot of time. You save on osteopathy sessions, physiotherapy sessions, whatever you want that will try to attempt to improve you. But, well, it helps. I'm not saying it does not. But there is no fast effect like you feel after a fast. You really feel that you are rid of a weight. You have detoxed your body, and then you really feel light without pain. So we have cases, whether polyarthritis, rheumatoid, people with fibromyalgia, osteoarthritis, or pain of every kind. We always have the same result. It is reproducible. For sciatica, herniated discs, it is repeatable. I had a herniated disc myself with right foot paralysis. The paralysis went away after 7 days of fasting. So you realize that these people who get operated on for herniated discs, where we are going to try to make a correction on the sciatic nerve, to try to remove what is touching the sciatic nerve with all the risks that it entails, we have people who get worse. They will be in for an operation once, twice, 3, 4 times. I have had grave cases. So a simple fast will fix the cause. Do you realize it? There should be back clinics, lumbar clinics. All osteopaths, orthopedic doctors ought to really be interested in this method with supervision. They would really get people out of much pain and many difficulties if people were interested a little bit in this method. I do not mean I have no hope, but it will never happen because nobody believes it. Nobody understands it is possible. Nobody has experimented. Maybe the day a rheumatologist has a clinic and who would like to start fasting, he could perhaps do a medical fast to treat back pain. Why not? We have not yet seen a rheumatologist come to our cures and take an interest in this. These people live with pain for years. This causes enormous suffering. People run to all sorts of treatments with little improvement. If you take injections, painkillers, you will not solve the cause of back pain. You hide the problem and you push the problem to the background. You are anti-symptom, you put on a bandage, but the problem is still there. It is for life. It will never be resolved if you do not go deeply to create a cleanse, a reorganization. As medical fasting can do, it is a real surgery to the body and to the intelligence. We are our own inner doctor. We know how to treat ourselves in case of problems as animals do, as I always explain, since the dawn of time. When it becomes chronic, the question is not just which vertebra needs to be put back in place. The real question that arises is why this organism is maintaining this pain. That is where fasting comes in, that it will really have a multifactorial action. It will treat all problems at once through different mechanisms, various intelligent arrays that the body has possessed since the beginning of time. If we take the example of a herniated disc, a disc presses on a nerve so it hurts. Actually, it is much more complex. Two people can present an imaging of a lesion that is fairly similar and have completely varied symptoms. It is not an MRI or an X-ray that will tell you the state of your pain if the rheumatologist looks at that, or the surgeon. What counts is how you are in your body. Does it hurt or does it not hurt? It is not so much the X-rays that can provide a lot of information. There are people who suffer enormously, others almost not at all. In the imaging, one might think that this person must suffer a lot because that the pain depends not only on the mechanics but also on the local inflammation, on the nervous system sensitivity. It also depends on sleep and stress levels. If a person does physical activity, their flexibility, if they do yoga, they will really have joint flexibility. There will be less tension and less pain in the area. It depends on metabolic factors and the pain. The person has, I always say, it is multifactorial. It is vital to understand this overall notion. We are not just a piece of meat, but we must approach pain, a problem, a symptom in a holistic way. I know that working on many systems at the same time will reduce inflammation, cleanse, regenerate, lighten compressed discs, and release tension. It will also regulate the entire nervous system. It will create homeostasis at different levels, and it will go and treat the problem in an emergency, the first problem, etc. The second, the third, each fast that you do, it is a management, a self-cleaning that you do. So the body possesses its own repair mechanisms. We are not passive. Every single second it destroys, it recycles, and it rebuilds cellular components. It is one of the well-known mechanisms called autophagy. So auto means self, and phagy means eating oneself. Autophagy is therefore in a certain way, an intracellular recycling system. Cells can eliminate certain components, damage, recycle proteins, then renew a part of their structure. It is a Nobel Prize, I recall. It is one of the key principles of fasting where we can really say that it is autophagy that will act for regeneration. It is a mechanism of cellular homeostasis. And we know today that food deprivation can stimulate certain metabolic pathways. This is why fasting attracts scientific research, specifically water fasting. I remind you that people who say that there are no studies on fasting, there are about 2,000 to 3,000, so that does not come out of a hat, as I say. But be careful with an idea that is very widespread on the internet. We cannot say that in humans autophagy is not a quick thing. It takes time. It is not a 24-hour autophagy that is needed. It is a much longer autophagy. That is why we need many days and why dry fasting is interesting. It reduces the time. You do not need 3 weeks of water fasting. In 1 week, you get the same results as 3 weeks of water fasting, or even 4, 5, or 6 days of dry fasting. It is already a cure that is extremely effective, provided that it is well prepared and well resumed afterwards. Autophagy peaks at 3 to 4 days, so it is good to reach these 3 to 4 days at a minimum. Then after that it stabilizes and then it goes down a little bit. So physiology is not a switch, it is a continuum, and everything depends on the starting metabolism, on glycogen reserves and physical activity, and then on the state of one's own nutrition. What is interesting with a long dry fast is that the body stays long enough in a metabolic environment different from its usual function. So we are in ketosis. So ketosis will create ketone bodies, which are a treat already for the central nervous system and then has physiological benefits. We are going to do very important cleanings, and then it makes insulin drop drastically. And so, of course, any inflammatory state is drastically improved with ketosis. When we regularly eat carbohydrates, insulin is regularly solicited, therefore the body easily has glucose. Then when the energy intake stops, well, we have a decrease in glycogen. Insulin that drops, lipolysis and fat burning increases. And then fatty acids become much more important as fuel. The liver therefore increases the production of ketone bodies. So we enter progressively into what we can call a different metabolic economy. And then among these great metabolic pathways, molecular, we could call them that, which are involved in fasting. So we always find AMPK, so protein kinase, and mTOR. So in a simplified way, mTOR is associated with growth signals, nutritional abundance, and protein kinase. AMPK is more activated when a cell perceives an energy deficit, so it is rather catabolism. So during dry fasting, the metabolic environment shifts towards a mode mainly oriented towards the use of nutrient storage, and then towards a state of adaptation to their absence. So it is notably in this environment that cellular recycling mechanisms become interesting. So what are the relationships with back pain? That is where we must be precise. I will not say autophagy eats your herniated disc, although I think that at the level of the nucleus it is the small. In the disc, it is what will exceed the disc and then touch the nerve. I think that autophagy will go and eat this famous nucleus and also slightly dehydrate the disc, which means that it will slightly shrink, and then there is less compression, in my opinion, on the sciatic nerve. It is my hypothesis. After that, we would need to have specialists and then several to follow people, do x-rays, etc. But it is only a hypothesis. It is perhaps something else. I do not have a 100% answer on that. So a herniated disc, a complex anatomical problem, it can happen from just about anything. You make a false move, it triggers, you get that nerve compression. It can affect, paralyze a nerve that can bother you in your foot. That is what I personally experience. So there you go. It must be aware that dry fasting is currently an extraordinary method. Every case of herniated disc we have seen, and there are many, they all reported a resolution, complete of their issues in a way that is both lasting and stable. So what I observe on the ground, we can distinguish between two things. On one side, what scientific literature currently allows us to claim, and on the other, what we observe empirically on the ground during our guidance, during our retreats. For years, I have helped people who practice dry fasting prolonged in a setting, accompanied and monitored. And among the things that impressed me most, it is sometimes the very rapid evolution of certain chronic pains. For me, dry fasting is spectacular in chronic pain, especially all back pain, all pathologies linked to back pain. Dry fasting I have not found better than that. You can take whatever you want, essential oils, arnica, some phytotherapy, or even all the healers you want. You cannot get a result as fast as that. In 4, 5, or 6 days, you really see a difference. There is a before and an after. It is really clear whether it is sciatica, lower back pain, as I said, herniated discs, stiffness, muscle pain, diffuse pain, erratic pain, it does not matter. Of course, we also have efficacy on the soul, on all these cold infections, which create pain everywhere in the body. Dry fasting also has a response to autoimmunity and infectiology. If you have parasites, viruses, bacteria, dry fasting will dry them out. And you will have the result that will immediately be visible upon exiting a dry fast. So the pain starts to diminish quickly right from the exit. Some people describe an evaluation they had not obtained with numerous technical approaches. It is always what we hear. I must specify, however, that you must understand something essential. A clinical operation or a testimony is not a clinical trial. It is not because a person had a result that it is reproducible on everyone 100%. There are always people who do not necessarily respond to everything. But in the broad strokes, on things like back pain, the improvement ratio is quite important. Rare are the people who say they had 0 results with a dry fast. There are always improvements afterwards. Sometimes it is significant, moderately, etc. In any case, when you have chronic debilitating pain for years, you suffer. It makes sense before taking pills or capsules to look into fasting. If you do not want to do dry fasting, at least go see specialists in water fasting. It will be less effective, but there will still be an effectiveness. It is undeniable. A cure also, it will not fix everything either. You will have to come back. On osteoarthritis, for example, it is 3 cures over 18 months, an average. 3 cures, that is what you have to do to treat chronic pain, etc. Afterwards, it is maintenance either once or twice a year. That is what I do. It is like a car oil change, 1 cure per year. Why can sciatica change quickly? Because sciatica is not solely a compression problem. There is also an inflammatory component around the nerve root. So this completely changes the way of looking at the problem. If you imagine an irritated nerve root, around this root There are different inflammatory modulators that participate in hypersensitivity. So the same mechanical constraint can produce much more pain. If the inflammatory environment decreases, it is theoretically possible to have less pain while the anatomy has not yet completely changed. This is why pain and radiological images are not always perfectly correlated. This is also why some people can experience a spectacular improvement without their spine having miraculously transformed in a few days. You have to see each case. The herniated disc is not necessarily a definitive condemnation. The organism can progressively resorb some herniated discs spontaneously. This resorption occurs over weeks and months, which can follow a cure. It was after a week, 10 days, that I started to have this right foot paralysis that went away, which improved. We must therefore stop imagining that the body functions like a machine incapable of repairing itself. We have our internal physician. The body constantly possesses these self-repair mechanisms of 2 adaptations, and even more when you are in a fasting state. The cell goes into protection and you go into repair mode. You no longer have energy that is used for digestion. So you are in fasting, in repair mode. You let the body do it on its own. It knows how to do it very well. When you give it a maximum of energy and rest, it knows how to repair. I remind you that we do not do invasive techniques during dry fasting. We have people who do that. That is not my school of doing dry fasts that are too interventionist with many techniques. Massages that are too violent, too deep techniques, bees, leeches, needles, and things like that. It is too interventionist for me, not suitable. It won't mimic the injured animal to the point of self-repair. We are intervening too much, that is medical. And it is not the solution. We must leave the body alone. It knows how to manage a repair itself. Why is one manual session not enough? I like osteopaths. We work with an extraordinary one, and I find that the combination of osteopathy and dry fasting goes very well together. But there you go. If you have to continually receive outside intervention to get a few days of relief, you must look further sometimes. That is osteopathy when you have neck pain. You crack your neck, it is fine for days, then it returns. If it comes back, maybe you need to change something else, either in diet or do some fasting, do autophagy, do some cleaning. There are perhaps too many toxins that you simply need to go and release. You should also look when you have those pains. It is not just about mobility. It could also involve a lack of muscular strength, a lack of physical activity, or a lack of sleep that creates stiffness, or a nervous system that is too sensitive. Stress and being overweight can also absolutely lead to pain. An unsuitable diet, 3 sides too, it can perhaps give unfavorable metabolic states. When you have neuromuscular pain, you must really take the person into account in their entirety. I go by layers. I have had complex, heavy cases I treated without dry fasting. But there is a logic to follow. There is a precise order for therapeutic sequences. You give therapy, wait 1 or 2 months, then give therapeutic remedies with a global understanding of the person. You wait 2-3 months and so on, and you do a rotation in the therapies with a logic that is established on the deep causes of the pain. There also exists another way to explain the concept of fasting. Imagine your body as if it were a company. Usually this company constantly receives goods, breakfasts, snacks, dinners, desserts, and then the body must continue to digest, absorb, distribute and store that energy. During fasting, this permanent arrival of nutrients no longer exists. It is over, finished. The metabolism must adapt. Progressively, we begin to use more of our own internal reserves. It is this metabolic transition that is truly interesting, not because fasting would be magical, but because it forces the organism to function in another fuel mode, that is to say, acetogenesis. Dry fasting adds an additional constraint since there is no more water. This requires a reorganization. We remove everything solid and liquid. And then, physiologically, this is not identical to a classic fast as you might have thought. And then we have vasopressin, which increases. The kidneys consume more urine in dry fasting. The body seeks to limit water loss. There is this antidiuretic hormone that starts to produce it itself. There is nothing secret. It is the magic of the body. When you constrain it, it knows how to adapt. It will create water-saving mechanisms. But it is also precisely for this reason that prolonged dry fasting necessitates caution and monitoring. Do not do just anything. Do not confuse physiological stress that can trigger adaptive mechanisms with more stress. More stress, the more important the stress, the better the result will be. If we reason like that, this reasoning can be dangerous. So, excessive dehydration can, on the contrary, become problematic, especially in terms of cardiovascular. So you have to watch what you do. It must not create imbalances. So the data available on daily periods without water, such as Ramadan, do not allow us to automatically extrapolate several consecutive days of dry fasting. People suffering from kidney disease constitute a population for which dehydration requires special vigilance, and then dry fasting is currently a form of deep metabolic cleansing that allows you to go and release the tensions, diverse and varied. So everyone tells us after a dry fast, I feel lighter, my body is more flexible, I feel my organs much more, everything is more flexible. I have more energy coming back. There you go. So that's often what is described to us. How many days to fast for back pain to go away? It is very relative. It is a question that many people ask themselves. It depends. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 days. There is no rule. Dry fasting is evaluated day-to-day basis, no rule. Some feel metabolic changes quite quickly, others it is more gradual. There you go, it depends. We cannot say do 3 days, do 5 days, and everyone will heal. We have this Russian-style reasoning. You must do 7 or 9 days or you won't heal. That is a bit gunboat. There you go. So we send the heavy load and then we see what happens. There you go with all the collateral effects that can come from functioning, from reasoning, with absolutely reaching significant distances. Not everyone is capable of achieving that, and then you do damage. There you go. You have collateral effects. There you might improve as a person, but you have made a few worse. So that is what we call gunboat therapy. Well, that is not my approach. I do not work that way. Here, everything is tailored to the individual. We observe, we adapt the durations and so on. We do not engage in interventionism, not things that will go and create endless overstimulation. We do not multiply the therapeutic spectacle that comes from the Orient or from Eastern countries to bring back fantasy. We are not into that at all. We are pragmatic and observant And then we are professional when we take care of people in our cures. So, so regarding fibromyalgia, we cannot say that there is a displaced vertebra. Fibromyalgia involves changes in the pain processing by the nervous system. This is truly an excellent illustration of a key principle. Pain is not just in the tissues. Pain is an experience created by the nervous system based on information from the entire body, whether it is metabolism, inflammation, sleep, stress, hormones, or activity. Emotional state, all of that can modify our perception of pain. That is why a holistic approach seems to me to be the right approach to take care of a person in their entirety. There, watch out for warning signs during dry fasting. There, any back pain should obviously not be treated by a fast. We have told people it would be something else, but in general, fasting works very well on all kinds of pain. You must always try with small doses. What I recommend to people, the person in question, try 24 hours, then 36 hours, then 2 days, then 3 days, and measure there. Did these small distances do you good? Did they make you worse? Do you feel an improvement? You know very well that if the person improves with 36 hours of dry fasting, you know you can move to the next step. Then try 3 days. Did it help? Do you feel better? Yes. Move to the next step, add another day, and so on. After 3 days of dry fasting, move to 5 days. After that, you can perhaps move on to 6 days, to 16 days, and so on. You must always feel well when you finish a dry fast and not be in pain. We do not do that. At first, I tended to do long dry fasts, and then we had people who recovered very, very slowly. It was complicated. Now we want people to recover quickly from the dry fast. With energy regained in 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks is ideal. We must be at our best. So if it takes you 2 months to recover from a dry fast, there is a problem. It means you have exceeded your adaptation capacities in a fairly significant way. That is not what we advocate. So watch out for warning signs: muscle weakness, paralysis, a loss of control of urine and stool, anesthesia of a perineal region, a strong fever, a major trauma, and so on. So always have a watch on warning signs during dry fasting. Report these pains you have during the dry fast to the companion, who will be able to explain why these pains exist. That is all for today. Dry fasting is my number one tool for all back pain, and all pathologies centered on the musculoskeletal system. It is an undeniable answer to these pathologies. Sadly, it is little studied. There are 2 or 3 studies on dry fasting that exist. Researchers should look into this for treating osteo-articular. It is obvious because we have an answer that we know empirically. It works very well, but most people lack this knowledge. These videos are here to inform you. If you have back pain, come see us. We have ideas for you. You can also do short dry fasts. If you want to test 24 hours, 46 hours, I have published 2 books on the subject: The Dry Fasting Revolution and Therapeutic Dry Fasting. You have keys, information in these books. My YouTube channel has a masterclass. If you want to fast at home instead of coming to the center, you always have the possibility to buy a masterclass. There are all the explanations if you want to do it at home. It is not what I recommend. But if you have no choice because you cannot travel, you do not have the financial means to pay for a hotel abroad, etc., well, do at least something professional. Follow people who are used to accompanying groups. Everything you see on the internet or YouTube about people who make theories for you about dry fasting, it is very good. but it only reflects them, in fact. You cannot superimpose their explanations on you, in fact. There are pseudo-experts who talk to you about lots of things about dry fasting, but they do not have the experience of accompanying people. So they only have a very quiet, very limited vision of their dry fasting. But that does not represent the entire population. It requires a varied group where it requires attention and personalized follow-up. There. That is all for today. See you soon. Bye.